Trump is in a bit of trouble for his response to this, and I'm not going to rag on him. I otherwise wouldn't have even talked about it, except for the fact that people are misrepresenting his truth post to suggest that he was somehow celebrating the murder of Rob Reiner. But I would have not said anything. Don't feel the need to say, to either feign outrage or support like some. And incidentally, I'm not quoting the Quartering here because he's feigning outrage. I think Quartering's assessment is, the way it should be done. You say, it could have not posted this and it wouldn't have been the end of the world. The Quartering says, I think Trump could have sat this one out. And I agree. This is the post, and we're going to get into some of the responses and some of the disingenuous responses to it. Trump writes, a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and uncurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession over President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Everything after the wife passed away could have been, and up until May Rob rest in peace, could have been omitted from that. When I first saw it, people are sitting there freaking out. And, how dare? When I first heard of the outrage, I hadn't read the post yet, and I'm just reading people's responses on Twitter saying that's a terrible, disgusting, blah blah blah. And so I had higher expectations for the offensiveness of the post, such that when I got to the original post, I'm like, okay, it's crass and it's stupid, but it's not as bad as I was expecting it to be based on the responses. Some of those responses being Trump is celebrating in the murder of Charlie Kirk. Listen, I first of all, when I first saw the post afterwards, I thought, is this the real one or is this a fake post? Then I said, okay, well, the only way to steelman a defense is if this post was drafted before they knew of the cause of death. But it seems to have been posted this morning. And by that time, I'm fairly certain everybody knew that Rob and his wife had been brutally murdered. And so, my first reaction is to say they didn't pass away; they got murdered. Karen Basshole, Los Angeles mayor, the woman who made sure there was no water in fire hydrants during the dry season, takes her shot at Trump and says the passing of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer is a tragedy. The passing of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner is a tragedy. In moments of loss, decency matters. So let me exploit of the situation now to take a political shot at Trump. Donald Trump's response in this moment shows that there is no bottom, no depth, and he will not sink to, even in the face of grief. Rob Reiner's legacy. So you read that. I mean, you could be forgiven for having had greater expectations of the offensiveness or the crassness of what the post was compared to what it actually was. But it didn't need to be tweeted or posted. It could have just been rest in peace, and no one would have anything to complain about. And it's not just the left either. Reiner's legacy as a filmmaker and advocate, I don't care to read the rest of this crap. So the other thing so that's one take. Then you got the cat turd. And I say this with no judgment to cat turd, except to say, you don't have to, you don't have to go to your way to passionately and virtue signally condemn that which is not quite that bad that requires it. You don't need to go around saying I condemn murder. It goes without saying. You don't need to go around policing other people's social media feeds. You don't also need to go cheerlead for them when it doesn't do any good. Catchard says every liberal, focus on that word, crying about Trump's mean tweet today, would dance on his grave for years in the most vile way possible if anything happened to him. So spare me the fake outrage. And I'm not trying to pick a fight with Catchard, but this is a childish response. This is like the kid saying my sister didn't do her homework when I didn't do my homework. And then my dad says, I don't care that she didn't do her homework. Right now, I'm talking about your homework. It's wrong, but they do worse is not a defense. It's an admission. It was wrong. And incidentally, it really isn't only liberals who are sort of irritated by that post. Sage Steele says, I love Trump. Why do you do this? What's her face there? The one who, not Bartolomo. Angela Belcamino, the one who the account that nobody seems to realize is a troll account. It's like, yeah, how does everybody feel about this? I haven't seen anybody say that was one hell of a funny tweet. I appreciate it might have been trying to make light of a horrendous, horrific situation. No. And just once, and I think the amount of goodwill that this would garner if Trump would actually apologize. Just say, yeah, I was trying to make light of a horrific situation. It didn't come out as I intended. I apologize. My sincerest condolences to the Reiner family. Holy crab apples. Could you imagine the heads that would make explode on the left? And then maybe he actually didn't know how they were murdered at the time it was drafted or sent. But you'd never get anyone to believe that necessarily. Now, I'm not reading any of the chat that says I'm glad he's dead. But my point on this is not to lose sight of. Yeah, the left would dance on the graves of the people that they hate when they die. That's what makes them rabid demons. Why on earth would anyone be proud of saying, I'm as much of a rabid demon as those rabid demons? You don't defeat the monster by becoming the monster. And there's nothing to be gained by debasing yourself in that way. Yeah, it's what makes them disgusting scumbag scoundrels. And it's what makes us, however you want to qualify that, better. You don't dance on the graves of people, even your ideological adversaries, and appreciate that's exactly the rationale that they're using. I had one interesting, it wasn't even a debate, it was a discussion, but someone's perspective on my tweet, where I said, like, there but for the grace of God go I. They say their response was, no, Rob Reiner contributed to the degeneracy, the godlessness of Hollywood. He reaped what he sowed, effectively. And I didn't hit send on it because I don't feel that I don't really want to fight with people. There's no way to have this discussion, but you reap what you sow is exactly what they said after Charlie Kirk was killed. That's exactly their rationale to say, well, I disagreed with his politics, but but when someone gets murdered, you don't need to say or preface it's a tragedy. Well, I disagreed with their politics. Like, God forbid they think that anyone would think that by you grieving or mourning their loss, that it means you agreed with all of their politics. That is the rationale that they used to justify Charlie Kirk's assassination. Well, no one should die like this, but you reap what you sow. And he put hatred into this world. He put bigotry and xenophobia and whatever in this world. The only difference is you don't believe their rationale, and they're not going to believe your rationale. But you debase yourself by saying, I dance on the grave of Rob Reiner. Do it for heavy metal rock music now. For everybody who says that music puts demonic forces in the world. So if you don't like someone, and if you think that they put bad juju into the universe, you dance on their grave. You're not debasing them. You're debasing yourself.